Chapter-1, Sage Creek, Texas, 1883. William Wild Bill Cook smoothed his black duster and stepped through the swinging batwing doors into the saloon. His eyes scanned the bustling, noisy room for the slim, bearded man whose face he had memorized from the wanted poster. But he didn't appear to be in the room. Of course, that meant nothing. Sometimes the men tried to disguise themselves or hide in low-lit corners. Occasionally, he even found them upstairs with one of the saloon girls, if they had the money. Once he had even found a mark pretending to be a saloon girl. Not the brightest one, as he hadn't seemed to realize his full beard was a dead giveaway. It didn't matter. Wild Bill Cook always got his man. He sidled up to the bar, pulled his black hat low on his eyes, and ordered a whiskey. He wasn't a big drinker. His wife had hated the stuff. But he found one drink honed his senses and allowed him to survey the room without standing out too much. The last thing he needed was someone recognizing he didn't belong and warning Frank Monroe. The man was a cattle thief and deserved to be behind bars. But no man liked the prospect of jail time, and most fought tooth and nail not to go. When the drink slid his way, William picked it up, trying to ignore the cloudy film on it. Catherine would roll over in her grave if she saw him drinking from such a cup, and adjusted his position so that his back was to the bar. A heated poker game was taking place at a table across the room, but a closer look ruled out any of those men. Another few men sat at a table closer to his position, tossing back beers, but they were all too large to be his mark. His eyes continued to scan left, but after coming up empty, he finished his drink and turned back to the bartender. Monroe must be hiding out upstairs then. "Who do you have working tonight?" William asked the bartender. "It's been a long ride and I'd like to unwind." The long-haired bartender smiled at him, revealing a bottom row of crooked teeth, one a slightly brownish color. "What's your flavor?" William shook his head as he spun the glass on the counter. "I'm not particular. What are my choices?" The bartender scanned the room. "Looks like we have two blondes, Nellie and Lizzie, down here, which means Minnie, my brunette, is upstairs, engaged in other business." "I guess I'll take a blonde then," William said. "Nellie!" the bartender hollered across the noisy room. He cocked his head in a come-here gesture, and a moment later a plump woman appeared at William's side. Her long hair was pinned to one side and curled. Bright red lipstick covered her lips along with a dark rouge. A blood-red dress trimmed in a black fringe hugged her frame a little too tightly, sending her extra flesh rolling over the top. William forced his eyes to remain on her face. "You looking for a good time, honey?" she asked, laying a hand on his arm. William resisted the urge to shake her hand off, though its mere touch sent repulsion coursing through his veins. She was his ticket upstairs, and he could swallow his revulsion a moment longer to apprehend his man. "Sure am. Are you good at giving one?" "I'm good at everything, honey." Her voice flowed like silk out of her mouth, but it had no effect on William. He hadn't been with a woman since the death of his wife, and he wouldn't until he married again. If he married again. "Lead the way, then," he said, pushing the glass back to the bartender and standing. Nellie headed for the back stairs, sashaying her ample hips as she walked. William kept his eyes peeled for Monroe as he followed her, just in case he had missed the man in his initial scan. It didn't happen often, but William stayed alive by always checking twice if the opportunity presented itself. With each step, the wooden stairs groaned under his weight, and William held tight to the railing as he climbed. The top of the stairs opened into a small hallway. 2 doors were on the left and 2 were on the right, but all were closed. How was he going to determine which room Monroe was in? "Do you girls all have a regular room?" William asked, hoping her answer would let him know which room Monroe was in. Sort of, Nellie said with a shrug. But there are 3 other girls, so we have to share. Not helpful. He'd have to be more direct. Which one is Minnie's regular room? William narrowed his eyes as he listened, but he heard no sound coming from any of the rooms. Nellie's smile faded, and she crossed her arms, her flirtatious manner shifting to one of distrust. Are you here for Minnie or for me? William scanned her face. He didn't know her, didn't trust her, although in honesty, he trusted no one. But he had little choice but to ask for her help if he wanted any chance of surprising Monroe. Honestly, ma'am, I'm here for the man who is with Minnie. If you can point out her room, I'll pay you for your time. Nellie's eyes widened, and for a second, William was sure she was going to bolt and run to the bartender. But then her face shifted, as if realizing she could get paid without having to work, and she smiled. Sure, her room is the second one on the left. William tipped his hat and headed that direction. His right hand fell to the hilt of his revolver as his left turned the handle. Monroe and a brunette turned his direction as the door opened. Run, Frank! Nellie shouted from behind William. A look of surprise, followed by a flash of fear, crossed Monroe's face before he rolled out of the bed and dove for cover. With a grumble, William whipped his gun out. This was not the encounter he'd planned, and he hated when things didn't go according to plan. Frank Monroe, you're coming with me. You're wanted for stealing cattle. The brunette pulled the sheet around her and let out a blood-curdling scream that distracted William just enough that he didn't see Nellie run up behind him until it was too late. She rammed him with her shoulder, sending him into the door jamb. A shot went off, followed by 2 more female screams. William thought at first that he had fired his gun when Nellie hit him, but then the searing pain just above his clavicle hit him. Monroe sat on the floor, his gun smoking in his hand. William tried to raise his arm to fire a shot, but it would no longer obey his command. As soon as Monroe realized he had the upper hand, he scrambled up. But before he could make it very far, the thunder of footsteps reached the second floor. What's going on here? The bartender demanded, splotches of red lighting up his face and emphasizing the scar that resided there. That's Frank Monroe, William said, gritting his teeth through the pain. He's a wanted man, and I'm bringing him in. This one ought to be under arrest for abetting a felon. He pointed at Nellie with his left hand, trying to ward off the darkness that was creeping in on his vision. You can't arrest my girl, the bartender roared. Actually, we can, a male voice said from behind the bartender. Before the darkness won the battle, William noticed a star pinned to the man's chest. At least his man wouldn't get away.